My name is Versha Sharma, and I'm managing editor of Now This.
Moderator, how did this panel come together?
So PolitiCon reached out to Now This a couple months ago and asked if we would be a media partner, and we were very interested in it. The idea of a politics and comedy convention with people from both sides of the aisle really appealed to us. So through months of sort of just working together, pitching ideas, I came up with the idea for the panel, Millennials Calling Bullshit. They seemed to like it, and then we started to put the panel together.
I don't really get trolled a lot, but I mean, then again,
where is the Twitter where you live?
Where's the Twitter where I live? I get trolled a little bit, but I don't get trolled a lot. Maybe you guys have more Twitter followers than I do. I don't know. What the hell are you guys saying? What's going on?
Do you have bees on your Instagram in limes and lemons?
I don't have bees, limes, and lemons. You
can have some of mine.
But I got to try that. I will take some of yours. I mean, I find usually like. I'll talk about stuff like from an economic standpoint. Like I didn't get trolled yesterday when I talked about Brexit. I talked about Brexit, but I was like, that's because like they lost 100 billion pounds in the stock market. And I was like, that was a dumb move. And then people weren't like, actually, that was the best. You know, people understood money. Like that's my take on things is usually like the economics of things. So usually people don't troll me. So there, guys. I don't know. I mean, but I would love to hear, do you guys?
Quick note, Jordan might actually have to leave early to go to a comedy hour.
No, this is too good.
At which point you troll him when he has to go.
No, don't troll me.
That is the most millennial thing ever. Showing up to a millennial panel and being like, gotta go guys, I've got this really cool thing that I've got.
Yeah, that is peak millennial. That's very peak. I mean, I have this, I'm making power moves after this. I gotta go. Making fresh moves, but yeah, I mean I guess that's what makes. I don't like getting trolled. Like, so
Does anybody like getting trolled?
I do.
I do. You like it?
Yeah, I'll take it. Perhaps, I don't know about the rest of you, but I speak out on various things from President Obama to radical Islam to Beyonce, so the cross-section of the things that I speak out about is wide-ranging. And then I'm probably the only one on the stage that is actively featured in a Pusha T, Jay-Z song as well. Yeah, as a conservative, add that to my list of credits. But I love being trolled, because if you're not being trolled and people aren't saying things about you or to you, you are not making a difference and you're not causing a reaction, you're not causing a stir. So I love it when people say something. For as many people that I have trolling and putting bees on my Instagram for Beyonce's sake, I have just as many that are...
Was this because you criticized her Super Bowl halftime performance?
Yeah,
is this why that happened?
So basically what it was, and I'll take over comedy for you, is I, as the Goliath in the situation, I went after Beyonce, who's clearly the underdog.
The David.
Between the two of us, Beyonce is clearly the underdog, right?
Victim.
But no, I criticized her Super Bowl performance for those that haven't seen it, and then after that I was inundated with the beehive.
Right.
Went after me strong.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, so I have bees and then now lemons all over my profile, but I take that as a badge of honor because you're stirring things up, you're causing controversy, you're getting a reaction. The worst thing you can do is tweet something and not get a reaction, in my opinion.
Alice, you said you get trolled a lot too.
Well, I know I'm doing my job when I have people from both sides accusing me of bias, because and I've had lawmakers, Democrats and Republicans in Congress and on the state level, accuse me of fabricating quotes, which is why I record all of my interviews all of the time. And sometimes if they want to accuse me of fabricating a quote, I will post the audio so they're doubly embarrassed.
Have any of them ever apologized after?
Oh, no, but they just go away. Recording interviews, very important for self-protection, also a holdover from my days as a radio reporter. But yeah, and I know I'm doing my job when I'm getting, one day people are calling me shillery, and the other day people are calling me, feel the burn or whatever.
Yeah, we get that a lot too. Yeah.
I think the interesting thing about 2016 is the teams are like a little mixed up here, because there's this populist message with Trump and there's this populist message with Bernie. And then you've got people like myself and guys sort of in the same position where we're not pro-Trump, but we're on the right. So the teams are a little mixed up. And so normally you'd just be getting trolled from one side, and now it's like, there's not even just one side, there's like 18 sides. So I hear that I'm pro-Hillary, pro-Trump, pro-Rubio, and I'm paid and on everybody's camp every single day, which is an interesting feature of 2016, I think. And then as to the being objective, I think I started out as just a straight reporter and did that for a couple years and came to DC because I was like, I feel like I'd like to sort of be me a little bit more than just doing this. And I wrote sports and features because it gave me an opportunity to be myself a little bit more, so I just decided, let's go all out. So I came to DC and did that, and I think a lot of it is not necessarily that you have to be an objective person. You're a human being, you have feelings, you have thoughts. A lot of bias, such that we see it in media from either side, is about story selection. And so now in this new media form, we just have a chance to go and cover the stories we would like covered. And so people who want to see those covered will come and find you. And so I think you don't need to be objective to see those stories. In fact, I would say you have to have an opinion to see the stories.
Right. Makes sense.
I agree, and I think the definition of objectivity has become pretty warped.
Right.
And I think that what people don't want is what we see in a lot of mainstream media outlets, which is a very lazy, shallow, so-and-so said this, so-and-so said, no, that's not true, it's actually this. The end. I've done my job as a reporter just by quoting those two people. No, you haven't done your job as a reporter. You have to then go look at the primary source and verify who is correct in this situation and call bullshit when you see it. And I think that as a standard in the media, I think that objectivity leads to a lot of false equivalence in that way and false balance, where you're presenting two sides as equal when they may not be equal. So I think as a standard, I try to aim for sort of pan-criticism. I am critical of everyone, and I think I still can be me because I can be a better me. I'm a better me when I'm critical of everyone on every side.
And for me, it's not about being objective. I'm not out there presenting myself as that.
Right.
I am an opinion person.
Right.
I
And
do
you're very clear
I do
about
some
that.
reporting, I do analysis and commentary, and I am very open about what I believe.
Yeah.
And so if people are like, "Oh, you're biased," I'm like,
Yes.
"Yes,
Yeah, that's my job.
that's correct. I am biased. I tell you what my biases
Actually,
are."
on Twitter, it's always, your bias. B-I-A-S.
Yes.
Exactly.
Y-O-U-R.
Bias.
Exactly.
You know, Y-O-U-R, bias, all caps. It's like, great. And so I think what I try to aspire to, at least, is intellectual honesty. So I have a point of view. I'm open about that, but when it is even against my interests or like the team's interests to call something out because it's the truth, I really try to do that. So one example was a couple months ago, there was some stupid controversy du jour, like some little tempest about something Hillary Clinton said. And it was a very short clip, video clip, where it seemed like she was blowing these people off in a way that was rude. And there was something about it that just rang false to me. And so I contacted...
It was a rope line thing.
Yeah. So I contacted the people who had the full video. I said, can I actually see the whole video? And it was a conservative group, tracking group. And I saw the whole video. I'm like, in the context of what she did here, this is literally not a story at all. This is not fair to her. There's so much to criticize about her. She's awful. This is not one of them. So I wrote a whole piece being like debunking this right-wing hit on Hillary Clinton, and was accused by fellow conservatives like, you're betraying us. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I want to be intellectually honest in pursuit of the truth while also letting people know, like, full up, this is where I'm coming from. And if you disagree with that, that's fine.
That's just because you're biased.
Yeah, so biased.
So let's talk about the distrust of the news, especially among young people. I think the most recent Gallup polling says that 36% of young people actually trust the media. And when you look at where young people say they get their news from, it's like a third of them say they prefer to get it from a comedy show like The Daily Show or The Nightly Show rather than any other news source. Even at Now This, which is a completely millennial run and produced page, we get accused of being owned by the system all the time, like you're saying. So how do we fight that? How do we fight that perception?
Well, I think personally, and I think many millennials would agree, that we don't like being defined by our employer. You know, I work for Think Progress. My editor-in-chief worked on Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign. Does that mean I am a shill for Hillary? No, look at my work, look at my articles, and then decide how you view me. So I think that having that label is a struggle for a lot of people. I mean, we all need a job, we all need to work somewhere, and we're proud of our own work, and we don't always want to have to defend an answer for every single thing our parent company does.
I think it's also important to realize like there's a reason to distrust the media. It's like they get a lot of stuff wrong.
Yeah.
And particularly in fast-moving news stories these days. And I'm not sure this is actually a bad thing. You're seeing reporters craft their stories as it's happening, and you're seeing how many times they do get something wrong while they're doing that in a breaking news sense. That happened all the time behind the scenes before. That continues to happen in ways that we don't see. And so I think there's actually a real reason to be suspicious. That can be helpful and help you to sort of vet news and to choose sources wisely. Obviously, too much cynicism can turn bad, but I think fixing the problem requires recognizing that, like, hey, there's a reason you think this in the first place.
Well, I think what might work for the Daily Show and the Nightly Show is that, we don't really pick stories with, I'm there in the writer's room. It's always like, what's the funniest story? You know what I mean? That's been our guiding principle. Like when Hillary danced on Ellen, that was hilarious. We had to talk about that. She was doing both the whip and the nay-nay. You know what I mean? Like
And then that dance craze died, a sad
When that dance craze died, it died, but it just showed that what presidents have to do in order to be president. Like you have to go on Ellen and do a ridiculous dance. Like, do you want to be the leader of this country? Well, you're gonna have to do the whip and the nay-nay. We never make the comptroller do that. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. So I think just pointing out the absurdity of the political process and just how funny it can be is our guiding principle, and that's why some people just come to us more than other places.
Well, if you're looking for absurdity, have I got a year for you?
I mean, yeah. This year is crazy. I think it points out more to me, something we talk about in the room all the time, is that maybe it's time for maybe it's time for a third party, or maybe it's just time to have one more party than China. You know what I mean? If we could talk about China enough, but that's, I think you guys were kind of talking about how it's all different. It's so mixed up. Well, I mean, it's only because we have not choice, but illusion of choice. And I think that's what we try to touch upon on the Nightly Show, which is, okay, Hillary's biggest donors are Wall Street. You know what I mean? I'm not down with Wall Street. I'm a very I come from a blue collar background. My dad worked for Pontiac. He worked his way up to be a doctor. He told me what unions are all about. And I believe in organized labor, and I believe in people coming together to agree for better terms. You know what I mean? That's fucking capitalism, to get better terms. I get paid too much to write jokes, okay? Because people sat in a room and kicked each other's asses till they worked out a deal where I'm talking too much. But the point is, Can
I ask you a question, actually?
Yeah.
Genuinely curious. Are there any conservatives on your writing staff?
Of course, we have 2 conservatives on our writing staff. See, that's a big misconception, too, is that we don't have conservatives in the room. One of my best buds is a conservative from Nebraska whose Twitter just was untouchable, and we had to have him. So it's that guy writes I play a character named Carlos Jordanson, who's constantly he's Hillary's campaign aide, and he's always sweating buckets and things like that and bullshitting, and it's written by a conservative voice. Watch the fucking show. It's because it's we think left, right, and center, it's good. We think people being left out are the working class. You know what I mean? I think, and I'm not I guess a lot of other people, I'm not a neoliberal. I'm a real, I hate saying that, but I guess you categorize it as a liberal because I give a shit about working people. So
okay, I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna call bullshit on you right now. The thought that you have to care about working class people, you have to be a liberal, bullshit.
Well, they used to be. The Democratic Party.
No.
Okay.
No. That's
Did somebody actually howl?
And so we're going to make it more lively. I think you and I might be the only people in here that are not reporters. So what I get tired of in the media is people going this far and wanting to say something, but then they don't, you and I, will go over the edge. So people dance around it because they don't want to say it. I'm going to kind of passively aggressively offend you, but not go out there. I will not passively aggressively offend you. If you don't like conservative politics, then I will offend you, and that's okay. But we can have an
plain old aggression.
We need it. We need people to actually have an open, honest discussion and get it out there. Let's stop with we need to be objective. You can have a voice. If you're a reporter, you should be objective. But if you're a commentator, out with it.
Well, if
you
want to be offended, have I got a year for you?
No, but I'm more...
That's a callback.
No, that's very good. That was very good. As a runner, I love it. All right. But the thing is, maybe I misspoke.
I want to go back to the working class comment, because this is a question that I often have for conservatives or people who study conservative policy. and it is, if you care about the working class, which I believe many conservatives do, why do conservative tax policies tend to always favor the wealthy?
Favor the wealthy or favor the free market? Guy, you want to take this and then I'll take it after you.
I think that that's a loaded, slanted question, the premise of which I don't think is true. Now, if you can say, okay, look.
Thank you.
I remember very well a press conference, I believe it was Harry Reid gave it, and they had a Lexus and they had a muffler out at this press conference. They're like, these proposed tax cuts for the rich could buy this Lexus. And this muffler is what the average American family could buy with their, the equivalent of the tax cut. And the reason for that is the rich, these people, are paying a shitload of taxes, and if they get a small cut, they can buy a Lexus. And so if you look at like the top 1% in the most recent year that we have data for paid roughly 40% of all the income taxes in the country. And the top 10% paid 70% of all of the income taxes. So if you're going to cut taxes across the board, including for the middle and working class, of course, as a matter of dollars and cents, the people paying the most are going to get the most back in terms of actual dollars. That is a reality.
I'll be real with you right now. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm in the 1%, and I didn't pay that much in tax because I have a great CPA that makes me not pay that much.
Because you can afford a great CPA.
Yeah, because I can afford a great CPA, like a lot of people do in the 1%. It's okay to clap at reality, everyone. All right, so that's what's true. I mean, like working people, like my mother, who's like, she worked at a community college her whole life, she pays full tax, that's insane. Like, I have a CPA that's like, I don't feel like I pay anything.
And that's why we need to simplify the tax code, which is something that conservatives believe in.
But to your point, you're saying that people are paying, if we can address the fact that people actually aren't paying that much. You know what I mean? Like,
but I just gave you actual statistics of how much they're paying.
No, I know, but you said that they were paying 40%, but they're not. I mean,
they just happened in the last 2 years. Like we just wiped that out.
No, but people don't. I mean, people find
ways.
People find ways to not pay tax.
No. I'm not talking about tax rates. I'm talking about the actual dollar amount of all the receipts that the government gets. The top 1% paid like 39.5% of all the income tax.
You're welcome, everybody. Okay.
That's a different argument. That's a different argument, but fair.
And you are correct that it's very complicated. I'm very excited that we turned this into a tax policy panel.
No.
By millennials who are not experts in tax policy. But complexity is a subsidy for people who can pay for a CPA. Mm-hmm. That is true. Simplicity would benefit the poorer and the more working class.
Absolutely.
And that is something that we could work together.
I think we can all agree on
I feel like we're fighting, and I'm not fighting you at all.
All right, let me bring it back a little more to the presidential candidates in particular. So Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, regardless of how you feel about them personally, just by their unfavorability ratings, are two of the most unpopular presidential candidates we've ever had.
Shit.
And they are our presumptive nominees this year. So what does that say about our current political climate, and what are the challenges of being a reporter or a commentator in this kind of election year?
I just want to say that it shows that the GOP can dream big, because they saw Hillary and they were like, nobody likes her. We can do worse. We can do it. Let's put our heads together.
Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Yeah.
The thing is, with this race, when I saw the title of the panel, Millennials Call Bullshit, I'm like, that has been my life for a year. Because I intensely loathe both major party candidates for president this year. And therefore, it's like almost liberating. Because, when they deserve to be defended, and Trump does and Hillary does sometimes, and I'll do that. But overall, it is a lot of bullshit calling, because there is mountains of bullshit from both of these people.
It's almost a supply problem, like there's not enough of us.
Yes.
No, but the problem is we apparently have high demand for bullshit as well in our economy, because we nominate these people.
The problem is that the bullshit and the lies can be so big and outrageous that a lot of the little ones get under the radar because there is so much, and reporters don't have unlimited resources, and so there'll be a sort of less sexy, less provocative lie, but still an important one. And you can't write an article about every single one. And
Trump was straight up like, I'm going to break the system with all the bullshit. Like, I'm going to say so many things in every press conference. Good luck covering one of them for
it's like a challenge to the press.
I would say this about Trump, because I'm not one of those people I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm never Hillary, so I'm going to support the party. But the fact that Trump actually speaks to the press, whether or not he treats them fairly or not, at least he does. It's been over 200 days since Hillary's even held a press conference. What the hell is she hiding from? She won't talk to the people. She's an everyday American who won't talk to everyday Americans. She's the epitome of you saying like, well, the liberals, they care about the working class people. Yeah, when she's wearing $12,000 Armani jackets, she cares about the working people. When she hasn't driven in 20 years, she cares about the working people. When she comes out of the White House saying that she's dead broke, yeah, she cares about the working people. Trump is exactly right. She will say anything and do nothing. She's in a quest for power. So you pick the lesser of two evils, and people say like, I don't want to be in that position where I have to pick the lesser of two evils. Welcome to reality. You don't have a choice. So you can either pick someone who put our national security at risk with her emails, who lied to the victims of the families in Benghazi, or the list of things that Hillary's done against women as well, intimidating and working to silence the women that were critical of Bill. You can pick that side, or you can pick Trump that doesn't make people feel nice because he's a little abrasive, and he might be a
that's the problem. Here's the thing. You do have a choice. There's a third party, for one thing.
But be honest,
second of all, as Americans, you ain't got to vote. They have to earn your vote. You don't owe it to any of them.
You don't, but Mary, what happens if you don't? Like, if you don't vote for Trump, what happens?
Welcome to reality. You have a choice.
You do, but who's going to be elected if you don't vote for Donald Trump? Who's going to be elected?
Hillary may be elected, and you're going to have to answer for everything Donald Trump does. That's one of the problems.
And that's okay, because you know what? When it
we'll enjoy it. I'll be there.
It comes down to, honestly, at the end of the day, sometimes it's going to come down to the Supreme Court. And we just saw the other day by the fact that we had the lock with Obama's executive amnesty. If we would have had one more liberal, if Hillary would have been in there, we would have had a liberal, and we wouldn't have had the shielding of 5 million illegals be blocked.
And
that's
Donald
the reality.
Trump's first advertised choice for a Supreme Court nominee was his sister. Number one, who is liberal. Number one, that was his choice. Then somebody gave him a list, and he was like, here's my list, I made it up. So forgive me if I'm not like, oh, I'm totally going to trust that guy with Supreme Court. Like, there's actually an evaluation there. It's not just that he's abrasive. There are actual policy issues where you look at him and you go, I'm not sure I can trust that guy to act in these
Well, also, let me be clear. I don't want it to go down that I like Hillary Clinton or whatever. We just like it's really. Please don't do it.
It's like for the record.
For the record, you seem so nice. I was like, I just want it to be known that I don't. What I meant was, in 1972, the Democratic Party abandoned working class people. They abandoned unions and things like that. And so what I meant was that I believe in that Democratic Party that actually did believe in the plight of the working class. Like, I'm one of the only, I think the labor force is down to 11.3% as far as unionized labor. That's terrible. That's terrible. That means, that you can be, you can be exploited a lot. And we've seen that with American workers, with jobs going overseas. What people are talking about right now. Unless people like come together, solidify, I don't, I just want it to be said that that's how I feel about things. And what Twitter is very good at is, I say this, I say like solidarity all the time, and I don't get trolled, strangely enough, because I think I found something that people can fucking agree on, which is that they do, the Constitution does at least, it does promise, we intend to have the benefit, the welfare of the people, like, we want to make sure from the cradle to the grave that people get a shot. And people do agree with that with me on the internet. I mean, I'm not a flamethrower. I'm just not. But
but I agree with, as a conservative, I agree with that principle.
It's great. What just happened?
And I also, but
what the
I also
fuck just
look
happened,
around
guys?
at our generation, and our generation is like, nah, no thanks, unions. Like our generation, I know a bunch of people.
Actually, my organization just unionized this year.
Right,
and we're bargaining our first contract right now.
Right, there's like 3 liberal organizations that are trying to do this.
There's more.
But
it is Gawker and
But
Vice.
largely, if you look
Gawker, by Gawker.
Yeah. Largely, if you look at the stats, like millennials are not, they're not clamoring for unionization. I think it'd be fair.
That's too bad. Some people think they have the rugged individualism. I'm from Texas. I'm a fucking rugged individual, and they swallow the myth that they can make it themselves. It's not true. It's not fucking true. You can't make it completely on your own. We're not.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Also, doesn't. The union doesn't have to be your community.
Yeah,
right. Like
I didn't say it was.
Right. I know, but I'm just making that distinction. That
gives me health
that's
care.
Not the
gives
only
me
answer.
benefits.
The government's not the only answer. There are like all these civic organizations in your community.
I would also argue on organized labor, because we're getting this is a wonky policy debate right now. I don't have a problem with organized labor in the private sector.
Right.
Where I really run into problems is when government workers unionize against us, the taxpayers who are paying them. Like, I think that is bullshit. So, I think, workers, steel workers, and auto workers and all that in the private sector, I don't have a problem with it. I can sometimes poke holes and say, you guys, you're an organ of the Democratic Party or whatever. I just think it's public sector, government sector unions that should be abolished. I don't think they should be allowed to exist.
So you shouldn't have like a firemen's union?
Yeah, I feel like.
So no cop unions or firemen's unions? Or
yeah, that's where you get.
There's
where you get these bureaucrats who have 3 different pensions from 3 different public jobs, and they're at the expense of working class people.
Good luck with that with the NYPD. That's all I'm saying. I live in New York, and that would not go well.
FDR said, the famous right-wing extremist FDR said that there should not be public sector unions.
Well, then
when Republicans do try to limit or increase the percentage that people have to spend in their health care and that sort of thing, then there's often carve-outs for police and firefighters and first responders, because politically that's a much tougher sell for obvious reasons.
Okay, yeah, but we're getting away from
It did
Twitter.
turn wonky.
I'm trying to sorry.
Back to what Tommy was saying though, and what we were discussing about sort of Trump versus Clinton and them being the 2 major presumptive party nominees. So let's go to what a nonpartisan organization evaluates them as. A nonpartisan organization, PolitiFact, says that Donald Trump tells the truth 2% of the time. Hillary Clinton, 49% of the time. If you combine their mostly pants on fire to false ratings, Donald Trump is lying 77% of the time. Hillary Clinton is lying 27% of the time. This is all according to PolitiFact. These are their ratings. So as journalists or pundits, whatever it is it our duty, like we were talking about in a Donald Trump press conference, do we call them out on those lies every single time?
Well, 2 points. PolitiFact is a left-leaning organization. And I think of the fact checkers, the Washington Post makes mistakes, but they're pretty good. Factcheck.org, I think, is better. PolitiFact, there has been deep dive studies into the number of statements. The reason that they find so many Trump lies is because they decide to rate Trump statements a lot more Republicans than Democrats. I think if politicians of either stripe are telling lies, we should call them out on it, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. I just think we have to be a little bit careful about the PolitiFact thing and that particular stat. The other thing I would say is, what are the consequences of the lies, right? So if Donald Trump lies about where he got the taco bowl, where he did his Latino outreach video on YouTube, which was a thing that he did, that's a lie, and he effortlessly lies about all sorts of things all the time, like these Trump steaks, which were not Trump steaks, all that stuff. Hillary Clinton has lied repeatedly about basically every statement she's made about her email scandal has been a lie, and that was a knowing compromising of national security. To me, that should count as sort of a bigger lie than Trump steaks.
Yeah.
Personally.
I think that Trump tells some bigger lies than just about
he tells massive lies.
He tells massive policy lies.
Thousands of Muslims celebrating on 9/11 in New Jersey on live television. Bullshit lie. No, I can go through them. I've spent a lot of time fighting them. I'm not defending Donald Trump, but the idea that Donald Trump is a much bigger liar than Hillary Clinton is too much for me to swallow.
He also has not been yet in charge of national security and made these mistakes. She has, and she has to answer for them.
But then how does Clinton get through 11 hours of Benghazi hearings in front of Congress, and it amounts to, what did it amount to?
Well, it amounted to a continued disapproval of her honesty. I mean, her numbers on honesty and trustworthiness are in the toilet, and there were a couple very big revelations in that Benghazi hearing that the media just decided wasn't a big revelation worth covering. For example, she told for weeks the Benghazi families and the public that this was a spontaneous protest that was triggered by an online video when she sent emails and correspondence within 24 hours after the Benghazi attack explicitly stating unequivocally that it was a planned terrorist attack. She was telling two different stories. They found an email exposing this lie, and the press was like, yawn. I had not seen this thing. Where did you get this thing about the email or whatever? That is an incredible tool that I think, regardless of where you are on the spectrum, there's a democratization of journalism that I think longer picture, bigger picture is healthy.
Yeah. And the same, people can contact us if they have an issue with our work, and sometimes those people turn into my news sources for the next story.
Yep. And if you get something wrong, you hear about it and you admit that you're wrong and correct it.
Right. And I want to add to that too, because I think that I have a big problem with discussing these things. It's like, oh, well, she sat in front of and she did testimony in front of the House, and they found that there wasn't really anything to that, and everything that we call out about the Democrats or Hillary Clinton is somehow reduced to some right-wing conspiracy. If you say anything about Hillary, oh, well, those are just the right-wing conspiracy. They don't, they're loony, like they have conspiracies about everything. That's bull. It frustrates me to no end.
There are Bernie Sanders supporters who would agree with some right-wingers on that stuff.
You know what Bernie Sanders supporters,
the alliance has been incredible. Like, some of my most clicked on articles have been like gone crazy in Bernie world. Like the Bernie bros, like just like linking everywhere. I'm like, yes, Bernie bros, clicks, thank you, because they loathe her.
They do.
That's people do loathe her. I mean, we can all agree on that. You know what I mean? Like, and people are critical of her. It's just like I said, though, the illusion of choice. We don't really have the choice. This is what we're given. You know what I mean? It's not Coke or Pepsi. It's like
we also
quick,
gave
you guys,
it to ourselves.
Yep.
Real quick, you said that you're anti-Trump conservatives. Who would you rather support? Who would you rather be the nominee right now?
Anyone?
Yeah.
What about The Rock? I mean, that guy's.
Dwayne Johnson.
He's Republican. And he said she's very interested in running for president.
100% work for him. 100%.
A lot of you were like,
I say if we're going to elect, let's elect the House.